So I can't believe it's September already. It's back to school next week. And how do you feel about going back to school, Michelle?
I'm kind of meh about it. Obviously, I prefer not being in school and it being summer forever, but I do like a lot of the aspects of school and doing math and art and things like that.
So, and just to be clear, she is not going to in-person schooling. Back in March of 2020, schools were closed because of COVID. They knew it was unsafe, so they closed down the schools and everyone went remote, and we just stayed that way. The schools reopened in September, but they never made them any safer. They didn't reduce class sizes, didn't get ventilation, didn't do anything. At least they used to mandate masks. Well, now that we're in 2022, they've decided to just let it rip. And not only has COVID not gone away, it's worse than ever. There are more hospitalizations and deaths. And with Omicron, you can be reinfected over and over. And now, you not only have to worry about COVID is airborne, monkeypox is out there. And monkeypox is airborne and surface. So to me, this is going to be a catastrophe. If I was sending Michelle to school, I would be sending her like this. Full hazmat suit, gloves, everything covered, but no. Yeah, even then, my anxiety would be through the roof. So
And mine too, obviously. Like, I cannot be around people. The thought of being around people gives me intense anxiety. I can't imagine, like, going to the grocery store, like, with the monkeypox. It would be a literal nightmare.
Well, and this is the thing, okay? So she's been home. At first, she was doing virtual learning because that's what she was used to in 2020. We just carried on with that. Well, in 2021, rather than just doing virtual learning for her, through her school, they moved her to a so-called virtual school. It was so disorganized. There were so many problems. I can't even tell you. Like, every single day something was going wrong. It was just a complete gong show. And I complained to the principal. The teacher was, well, let's not even go there. One problem after another. It was stressful for Michelle and I. And I'd had it. And I said, you know, this isn't working. I think I'm going to pull her out of school and homeschool her. And I was, at the time, I was scared. Like, I was very intimidated. I thought, oh my God, can I really do this? But I did some research and I decided that would be better because I would be in control and it wouldn't be a bad situation. So yeah, so I started homeschooling her, and now I was very anal about printing out all the Ontario curriculum and all the guidelines, and I had like a checklist and for every subject, and I wanted to make sure that if it wasn't covered in her in the textbook that I had, that I printed out worksheets, and because I thought if and when she goes back to school, I don't want her to be behind in anything. But now Michelle has said that she does not want to go back to school.
Yeah. Even if the pandemic ends, like, within the next few years, which it most likely won't, I would still want to be homeschooled because the stress of people, even without the pandemic, like, and I think the stress of the pandemic, it would linger with me, just the stress of being around people, and just people in general, without the pandemic. If the pandemic didn't even happen, still, school is stressful.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, Michelle used to be an extrovert. She was very social. She had a lot of friends. She's adapted. Like,
people give me anxiety.
Like, but the thing is, now we're home all the time. Like, for a while there, we were doing some things when I felt like it was still safe and there were mask mandates. We would go places in masks. But now that everywhere has dropped the mask mandate, one-way masking is not as effective, and it's more dangerous out there, not less. So we don't go anywhere. Now I even order groceries online. Like, that was our one outing, was we would go out to the grocery store, and now we order online. So we don't have to go out. So she's so used to being home now that she doesn't want to be around people. And I mean, you can't blame her because it's crazy out there. And everyone's just pretending the pandemic's over. It's like, that doesn't make it go away. It's actually worse.
Everyone's, like, saying that it's better now, the pandemic's over now. It's gotten 15 times worse. Not just with monkeypox, but with COVID too. COVID has adapted and it's gotten even worse than when it begun.
Yeah, it's BA5 now and BA275. and it just never stops. And I mean, they're not giving these new variants of concern their own name. They're just calling them subvariants of Omicron. But it's bad, and everyone's just pretending this is fine. How is it fine when the hospitals are overrun, there are staffing shortages and supply issues everywhere? Well, why do you think that is? You know what? It's pretty telling that after Delta Airlines and all the airlines dropped the mask mandate, and all of a sudden everyone's sick, and now all these flights are canceled, and it's like, well, you wonder why. It's like, yeah, it's not good for the economy either to infect your entire population. But anyway, everyone just wants to pretend it's not happening. Oh my God, and more kids than ever are getting sick. And you can tell because not only the pharmacy shelves are cleaned out of every cough, cold, and flu remedy, but children's Tylenol, you can't get it anymore. You just can't get, now you need a prescription to get it. That's how hard it is to get, because so many kids are ill. Like, this is terrible. And why would you put your kids at risk? Now, I know some people don't have a choice and they have to send their kids to school. I feel really bad for them. But for the love of God, please at least send them in an N95 mask. At least do that much to make sure that they're protected, because I just can't imagine sending your kid off to school. And there's people like sending their kids to birthday parties infected and not caring that they infect everyone else. And like, people end up infecting the vulnerable, and then somebody, you know, somebody's mom, grandma, whoever dies. Like, that's not okay. So anyway, yeah, we're not going there. So we homeschool, and yeah, like last year I had her this grade 4 curriculum. It's pretty good. It has math, English, social studies, and science. And on top of that, because I was trying to cover all the bases for the Ontario curriculum, I printed off worksheets from the internet, all kinds of things for free, PDF files. I had her practice writing her cursive writing, and she did a journal every day. And I've got binders of all the work that she did, like the worksheets and everything. And so this year I've got her, oh, and she also had a French book. And I used to take French. I did pretty well in French. So yeah, I mean, I was a straight A student, so hopefully I'm an okay teacher, because I'm all she's got. And I mean, anytime if there was something that I wasn't too sure how to help her with, you know, we've got the internet and you can always look things up and videos and everything. I had this math book too. And now for this year, I've got her the grade 5 curriculum. I don't know if I'm blocking anyone with this. And also a Math Smart grade 5, and Science Smart, English Smart, and French Smart. So hopefully this year I'm not going to go crazy printing out worksheets, because I'm like, I think this is going to have everything covered. In addition to that, of course, she does some art, and she loves art actually. She loves drawing, and she loves reading. She's reading at an adult level. Like, I'm not worried about her at all. She does amazing in math. She loves math, and she loves reading and writing. So I mean, those are the main things to me. And then things like physical education, you know, she gets some exercise. She's actually really getting motivated lately to exercise. And yeah, and I mean, to me, homeschooling, it's so much more organic. Like, you wake up when you want and you do the work when you want, and you're not stuck there like having to move every time there's a bell, and you know, you show up at this time and you eat at this time, and it's almost like being in prison or being in the military.
Yeah, it is. And like, it's so weird, because why go to school with stress and danger, life-threatening, or even worse than death danger?
Well, and we're not even in the U.S. Like, in the U.S., kids not only have to worry about getting COVID and monkeypox, they have to worry about getting shot. Like, there are literally bulletproof backpacks. There are videos online of moms teaching their child, if there's an active shooter, get your bulletproof backpack and put it in front of you and huddle in a corner. Like, Jesus, if you've got to do this, like, how could you send your child to a school knowing they could be shot? I literally can't even. But this is the world now, and nobody cares. And I mean, God forbid, they did pass some new gun legislation in the U.S., but not enough, like, not to ban assault weapons, you know, God forbid. But yeah, people are willing to send their kids off like lambs to the slaughter and not care if they get COVID. Like, nobody talks about long COVID. Like, hello? You know, everyone thinks COVID, oh, it's mild, it's like a cold or a flu and you get over it. Well, you don't know. Even after a mild case, you can wind up with long COVID, and it's an epidemic. It's mass disabling. Like now there are going to be hundreds of millions of people with lasting cognitive impairment. Like that's not normal. And I mean, when someone's elderly and they have cognitive impairment, someone's going to blame their age. They're going to say, oh, well, they, you know, they're old anyway. But in children, like people talk about a brain fog as though it's this cute thing. Oh, you're just in a bit of a fog and it'll clear. Well, no, like that's brain damage. Even people that have lost their sense of smell, a lot of people, they can't smell anymore because of COVID. That's anosmia. Even that's brain damage. Like, hello, I don't know why people would risk it. And even, oh my God, okay, well, I do know why people risk it. It's because government and public health have gaslit the public to think that everything's hunky-dory and you can just run amok and do whatever and let it rip, and not warning them of the actual dangers. And even people that you would think should know better and that you can trust, people like Dr. Leanna Wen, for instance, she's sending her 5-year-old to school unmasked. And her excuse was that she thinks that masking has harmed his language development. Give me a freaking break. You know what the major source of language development is? In the first few years of life, you playing with your child and reading to them and talking to them and teaching them vocabulary. I was reading to Michelle and singing to her before she was born. She was in my belly and she already probably knew 10,000 words. So she was talking early, she was doing everything early. And I mean, every child learns at their own pace, but don't blame masks. Don't you dare do that, because there's no evidence of that. That is just anti-mask propaganda. And I'm so sick of it. And it was bad enough when like conservatives, the cons, of course they value money more than lives. So of course they're going to say let it rip and try to sell herd immunity when it's really herd disability and eugenics. But even the left now, like even the other side is, oh, we're vaxxed and relaxed. We're not going to worry. Oh, I'm not going to put a mask on my child. Like people have lost their freaking minds. So I just avoid everyone. We're going to be home. She's going to be homeschooling, and thank God we have that option, because I can't imagine the stress if I had to send her. Like I cannot imagine. It would be terrifying. And yeah, even in a hazmat suit, I would not feel like...
Yeah, same.
And how do you have lunch? Like some parents are saying they're going to have their child eat outdoors or they can go home for lunch, because like even if you wear a mask, you have to remove it to eat and drink. Yeah. So, and meanwhile, because there's no mask mandate, 99% of the people don't wear them, so there's like only one kid in a class that wears them. And some of the schools that have opened already, like in the US and everything, the one kid that's masking, they're being bullied and singled out, and they're not allowed in the class photo and all this nonsense. It's like, so they're vilifying the people that are actually being cautious when they're doing the right thing, and meanwhile all the other ones just don't want to do anything. It's a crazy world right now. But everyone thinks everything's fine because no one believes the government would willingly do them harm. But the reality is, like, everyone just cares about the bottom line. They just care about profits. Get people back to work, even if they're infected. Get people to school. Get the kids to school so the parents can go to work.
You can't make money if the entire economy is disabled and dead.
Yeah, dead people can't buy stuff. Yeah. And they can't go to work either. Like a lot of people with long COVID, they never do return to work. Like now there are so many staffing and they call it staffing shortages. They conveniently don't mention it's because everyone's sick or off with permanent disability with long COVID. It's just crazy. Like, why would you willingly do this to people? Like, they used to believe in herd immunity, but that's been disproven. There is no herd immunity. There is no lasting immunity, not from the vaccine, not from infection. You can be reinfected over and over, and they know now it does damage to your immune system. Immune dysregulation, T-cell depletion. You need T-cells to fight off infections. Once you don't have T-cells, guess what? You can't fight off anything. And look at all the things that are out right now. Monkeypox, polio's making a comeback. Like, who knows what next? Like tomato fever, whatever. I don't know. There's like a million things out right now. It's like, what is going on? Well, this is what's going on top of climate change, the climate crisis, because the temperature's higher than ever. Half the world's flooded or on fire. Animals are losing their homes. Animals mixing with people and disease. And it's a complete disaster. Oh my God, don't even get me started on that formula shortage in the US, and that was because a factory that made formula for vulnerable babies had disgusting, filthy conditions where they let the bacteria just keep going, and so eventually kids were getting sick. A few kids died from it, so they had to shut down production. Well, then there was no formula. All these mothers couldn't feed their babies. I'm like, what kind of a world isn't careful about baby formula? Like, for crying out loud. I mean, just the world is too crazy. Like, no, I don't understand anyone anymore, because even people, like, you'll see conferences of scientists even, and none of them are masked. It's a super spreader event. Like, are you out of your minds? Why would you get together in crowds? The X opened, you know, and Fan Expo and all these things, and everyone's just, you know, hundreds and thousands of people just walking around, no mask, I can't fathom it. Like, I am nervous when I get a package. I'm nervous about monkeypox now. I collect my mail. I wear an N95 mask and gloves and long sleeves to get my mail, because I'm even worried about that. And meanwhile, people are out having orgies, doing I don't know what. Like, for monkeypox, I mean, they couldn't even handle COVID. How the hell are they going to deal with this? Like, this is airborne and surface. So you've got to not only wear a mask, that's a given, wear an N95 mask, but also you don't want to touch any shared surfaces. Why would you want to be on an airplane and sitting in a seat? Why would you want to stay in a hotel? Like, anything where anyone else has touched, especially bedding or anything like that, clothing, like, ugh, but anyway, but we're home, we're safe. I'm very grateful that we're able to stay home. So yeah, she's going to be homeschooling, I guess, from now on, like, even if and when the pandemic ends. And at this point, I don't know if it will end, because people are so stupid. They're going to continue it forever.
Probably will in like 10 or 20 years.
I don't know. And between that and climate change, God knows, like the floods in Pakistan right now, wildfires everywhere. Like, it's just, and some people just want to pretend it's not happening. This is fine. Like the "this is fine" meme. Just pretend none of it's happening. Bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. But that doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. Like, we have to change our lifestyle. Like, doing things like having homeschooling, working from home, being remote. Like, anyone that can do that should be doing that, because it's less cars on the road, less commuting, less kids in the classrooms, which are unsafe. So yeah, this is a chance for a reset, you know, to save the planet and ourselves. So anyways, we've adapted. I'm so glad Michelle's happy, because she was a very social kid, but she's adapted to being home. And
I used to be around people all the time. I used to make friends all the time. We used to go everywhere all the time. You were always an introvert. I was always an extrovert. Yeah. And now people scare me. Now I'm more scared of people than you. I'm scared of going outside. Going outside after a long period of time especially gives me intense anxiety. I am so scared of people.
Well, like, for example, okay, yeah, and I've always been an introvert. Like, avoiding people is my jam. I could do that forever. But I feel safe in my own backyard. But with Michelle, she doesn't even want to be in the backyard if the neighbors are in theirs, which was hard when we were trying to use the pool and everything, because then it's like, oh no, now the neighbors are out.
Yeah, and here's the thing. When it's windy, one of the neighbors has a tree in their yard, and when the tree makes a noise, I'm like...
Yeah, and I mean, you do worry, because if they're barbecuing, if you can smell them, they're cooking, you can smell them smoking, whatever, it's like, the air is obviously traveling. And they used to say there's no outdoor transmission. If you're close enough, you still can transmit.
I am the exact opposite of
if that. If there's a concert or something, hundreds of people, you're right. Like, yes, for sure you're transmitting. To me, I feel safe outdoors when you're at that much of a distance, but I understand that she doesn't like it. And I mean, it's obviously because of me keeping her in. And I mean, even early this year, we were literally locked in. My front door lock didn't work. So there were a few months we did not go, she didn't go out at all. I had to climb out through the window.
Had to climb out through the window to like take out the garbage and get packages yeah. Or something like that. I was staying in the entire time. Like, I didn't go out that entire time. Didn't climb through the window or anything.
And then when we did finally go out, we went to visit my mom for my birthday, and it was a fiasco. We wore N95 masks and stayed outside, but my mom was not sympathetic to it, and she was actually gaslighting us and calling us paranoid, mentally ill. So I left angrily and said we won't visit again, because all the rest of my family wants to let it rip, because that's what everybody does now. So I'm like, I can't because we're gonna be safe. We're gonna be cautious. Even if the whole world wants to be a bunch of lemmings and jump off the cliff, we are not. We are gonna be safe anyway. And she's even more cautious than me, which I didn't think was possible. But anyway, so back to homeschooling next week. But yeah, she does the work at her own pace, and she does really well. I'm very proud of her. She did great last year, and I'm sure she's gonna do great. Take care, stay safe, even though it's not popular. If you are going to school, please at least wear an N95 mask to protect yourself and others. I think it's so ironic that they're so careful the kids don't bring peanuts to school, or, and because of allergies, and yet they're fine with everyone going unmasked and exposing people that can be vulnerable and that could get very ill or die or wind up permanently disabled. Like, how is that okay? It just doesn't make sense. I heard of somebody online said that they were going to bring their kid was going to bring a peanut butter sandwich to class because then they'd be isolated because they couldn't be around anyone else if they had peanut butter, and that'll keep them safe. So,
genius.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich has saved us all.
But they might just get sent home. But I mean, try to eat outside or go home for lunch.
And bring a peanut butter and jelly sandwich if you're not allergic.
And I've seen some people too, there's some kind of N95 mask where it's like a sticky thing and you can stick it to the top half, or people will just like have a straw underneath the mask for a second. But and some people have a little CO2 monitor to show the air quality. But I mean, I don't know, like, be as safe as you can. It's scary. And I mean, everyone thinks it won't happen to them and they think it won't happen to their child, but kids get long COVID too. And you don't know. It's literally like playing Russian roulette, luck of the draw. You don't know how it's going to affect you, and it can do long-term damage that you don't even realize until it's too late. So yeah, it's a crazy world right now. But anyway, do your best. Take care. Bye.
Bye.